You've been doing this for years, maybe since your early teens, and yet, no one ever told you the truth. What if I told you that something so common, so natural, could be quietly damaging your body, your mind, and your future as a man? Not because of what it is, but because of how it's done. For millions of men, masturbation has become a silent habit, rarely questioned, never truly understood. It's done behind closed doors, assumed harmless, even healthy. But here's the hard truth: most men are doing it wrong. And it's not just a matter of preference, it's affecting your erections, your hormones, your sensitivity, and even how you connect with real people. This video isn't here to shame you, it's here to wake you up, because you deserve to know what's happening under the surface, the micro tears in your tissue, the scar buildup, the dopamine overload rewiring your brain, the gradual dulling of sensation, and the emotional emptiness that sometimes follows. But there's hope, real practical hope. You don't need to quit, you need to shift. How often you do it, how you do it, and what your body truly needs to thrive. This isn't about control, it's about connection, awareness, and giving your body the chance to work with you again. So if you've ever wondered why things feel different or why pleasure seems harder to reach, stay with me. You're not broken. You just haven't been shown the right way until now. Before we begin, take a second to subscribe and turn on the bell, especially if you care about real, honest conversations about men's health. And if this message speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0, so I know how to better serve your journey. Let's start with the first and most common mistake, one that silently wears down your body over time. It's not the act itself, but the frequency. Because when masturbation becomes excessive, what feels like harmless release can slowly begin to damage the very system meant to give you pleasure. 1. Masturbating too often, when release turns into wear and tear. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think it was a big deal at first. Like most men, I figured masturbation was harmless, natural. A stress reliever, something private I never really had to think twice about. But as the years passed, I started noticing subtle changes. Erection quality wasn't what it used to be. Sensitivity dulled. It felt like I needed more stimulation, more intensity just to feel the same response. And I kept wondering, is something wrong with me? Turns out I wasn't alone. What I didn't realize back then, and what so many men still don't, is that doing it too often, too aggressively, can actually wear your body down from the inside. We're talking about a system that was designed for balance, not overload. Your penis is made up of sponge-like tissue, rich with tiny blood vessels. That tissue is meant to expand gently, to fill with blood and hold it. But when you masturbate multiple times a day, 3, 4, sometimes even 5, you're not just releasing tension. You're pushing that tissue beyond its natural limits. The problem is, it doesn't happen all at once. There's no dramatic warning sign, no flashing red light. What happens is more subtle and more dangerous. That extra pressure from over-masturbating starts to create micro-tears deep in the soft tissue. Little injuries you can't see or feel at first. Your body, always trying to protect itself, begins to respond by forming scar tissue. And scar tissue does one thing really well. It stiffens, it hardens, it blocks blood flow. It makes the soft tissues less flexible, less responsive. Over time, this silent damage adds up. Erections become weaker. Blood doesn't flow as easily. You might still be able to perform, but it takes more effort, more time, more stimulation, and even then it doesn't feel the same. It's like your body is there, but the connection isn't. And what's worse is how normalized this has become. We live in a world where overstimulation is a daily thing. Stress is constant, and we're trained to seek instant relief. But your body can't keep giving without rest. Just like any muscle, your sexual system needs time to recover, rebuild, and restore. And that's why frequency matters. Not because masturbation is bad, far from it, but because too much of anything, even something natural, can shift from healthy to harmful. Science suggests that somewhere around 15 to 20 ejaculations per month is a healthy range for most men. That's about 2 to 4 times a week, enough to keep the prostate active, hormones balanced, and blood flowing, but not so much that the body starts falling behind in repair. I know some guys hear that and panic. Maybe you're used to doing it daily or multiple times a day, but this isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. And the truth is, once you pull back, once you let your system breathe, you'll likely notice a change. More energy, more sensitivity, a kind of rewiring of your body's natural rhythm. If this sounds familiar, if you've been feeling less connected, less powerful, even a little frustrated with your own performance, this might be your body asking for a break. Not forever, just enough to heal. But the story doesn't end there, because even if you dial back the frequency, there's another hidden factor that's silently rewiring your system. And it's not in your body, it's in your brain. And it all starts with what you're watching while you do it. 2. Watching porn while masturbating, the silent rewiring of your brain. If I'm being completely real with you, this was the part I didn't want to admit, not even to myself. For years, I didn't just masturbate, I watched porn. Like most guys, it started innocently enough. A quick video here, a clip there. It felt exciting, powerful, like a guaranteed way to get there fast. And it worked, for a while. But then something changed. At first, I thought it was just stress or getting older. I started needing more time, more intensity, more extremes. What used to arouse me no longer did. I found myself scrolling longer, switching tabs, chasing that next hit of excitement that would finally make me feel something. And when I was actually with a partner, something was off. I was physically present, but my mind felt distracted, like I couldn't fully lock in. It was frustrating, confusing, and quietly devastating. The truth is, porn had been changing me, not just what I liked, but how I responded. Because when you watch porn while you masturbate, your brain gets hit with a flood of dopamine. That's the chemical that tells your brain, yes, this feels good, do it again. It's natural. It's part of how our pleasure system works. But when you flood that system day after day with exaggerated, hyperstimulated, unrealistic content, the brain starts building a new pattern, a new expectation. It stops responding to subtlety, to slowness, to real life. Real connection starts to feel boring, flat, not enough. And not because your partner is lacking, not because you're broken, but because your brain has been trained to only light up under extreme artificial conditions. Porn is like junk food for your mind, fast, intense, it's addictive, and ultimately empty. I say this not to shame anyone. I've been there. I know the cycle. The high, the release, and then that weird hollow feeling that follows. Sometimes you don't even realize it's affecting you until it's already deep in your wiring. But science is clear on this now. Long-term porn use, especially when combined with frequent masturbation, can literally reshape the brain's reward system. It makes it harder to find satisfaction in normal, healthy sexual experiences. And in many men, it leads to delayed arousal, weaker erections, and even emotional detachment. But here's the part that gave me hope, and hopefully will for you too. Just as the brain can be trained into this, it can also be retrained out of it. When you step back from porn, even for a short while, you give your brain a chance to reconnect with natural cues, with fantasy, with imagination, with the feeling of your own body again without needing a screen to stimulate desire. It's not always easy. At first it might feel dull, but slowly something beautiful begins to return. Sensitivity, presence, even emotional depth. And that's what no one tells you, that it's not about quitting everything cold turkey or living like a monk. It's about taking back control, reclaiming your mental and emotional space, giving your body and brain a chance to reconnect on a level deeper than dopamine. And the difference? It's like night and day. Now, while your brain is being pulled in one direction by porn, your body, on the other hand, is working overtime in another way. Because every time you climax, it's not just pleasure being released. Something far more important is also being depleted. And if you're not careful, your hormones and fertility could start to feel the cost. Let's talk about that next. 3. Not giving your body time to recover when pleasure drains your system. There was a time when I never gave it a second thought. The release felt good, the habit felt manageable, and because there was no obvious pain, no sign of harm, I just assumed everything was fine. I never paused to consider what was happening beneath the surface, what that constant stimulation was doing to my body, my hormones, or my long-term health. But over time, little things began to change. I didn't wake up with morning wood as often. My energy wasn't what it used to be, and sex started to feel like more of a task than an experience. I was tired even after resting. I felt foggy, unmotivated, and I began to wonder, could all this pleasure actually be draining me? The answer I learned is yes. Every time you ejaculate, your body isn't just releasing semen. It's using resources, real biological materials that take time and energy to replace. You're releasing sperm, yes, but also critical nutrients, hormones, and neurotransmitters. Afterward, your system needs time to rebalance. Your testosterone takes a dip, your dopamine drops. Your nervous system, which just went through a sympathetic spike, now has to recover and find its rhythm again. But when you don't give your body time to catch up, when you're constantly on without letting your system breathe, what you're really doing is pulling from tomorrow's strength to feed today's craving. And the debt adds up. Overstimulation without recovery leads to hormonal imbalances. Your testosterone doesn't have the chance to normalize. Your sperm production falls behind. The quality drops. Less volume, lower motility, even altered shape and structure over time. This doesn't always lead directly to infertility, but it absolutely puts strain on your reproductive health, especially as you age. And here's the part that really opened my eyes. Your body is built on rhythm. It works best with cycles, stress and recovery, arousal and rest. But modern habits don't respect that. We're often stuck in go mode, distracted, stressed, overstimulated, and using quick release as a coping mechanism. That means we rarely stop long enough for the system to reset, for hormone levels to stabilize, or for deeper vitality to return. I didn't connect the dots at first. I just kept pushing through. But eventually the signs became impossible to ignore. Low energy, mood swings, a general sense that something was off. And it wasn't until I slowed down, gave myself space, that things started shifting. My energy came back. Erections became more spontaneous. My head felt clearer. I felt like myself again. That's why finding a sustainable rhythm is so important. Not because sex or masturbation is wrong, but because your body is wise. It knows what it needs. And when you're willing to listen, when you start honoring that rhythm, everything works better. From your hormones, to your focus, to your sense of drive and masculinity. So no, you don't need to stop completely. You just need to be in sync. Give your body time. Respect the cycle. When you do, your body rewards you. And just when I thought I understood it all, when I believed the problem was purely physical, I came face to face with something deeper. Something more hidden. The part of this that's harder to see but just as damaging. It wasn't just my body that was out of rhythm, it was my brain's reward system. And the next discovery changed everything I thought I knew about what normal actually feels like. Let me show you what I mean. 4. Ignoring the body's natural rhythm. Why consistency beats constant stimulation. There's something most of us never learned growing up. No one ever sits us down and explains that our bodies don't just want pleasure, they want rhythm, balance, a healthy cycle of activity and recovery. I didn't understand that for a long time. Like many men, I thought more was better. If it felt good, why not go back to it again and again? I never stopped to consider that what I was doing might not be in harmony with what my body actually needed. I believed I was just meeting a biological need, relieving stress, resetting my mind. But what I didn't realize was that I was overloading a system designed for flow, not pressure. And every time I pushed it without allowing time to rest, I was slowly throwing my body off its natural rhythm. You see, our sexual systems, our hormones, our energy, our arousal, they all operate like a tide. They rise and fall. When we let them follow that rhythm, we thrive. Testosterone stays balanced. The prostate functions properly. Erections happen more naturally. But when we interrupt that cycle with constant ejaculation day after day without pause, it's like never letting the ocean rest. The tide becomes choppy, unpredictable, unstable. At one point, I was masturbating out of habit more than need. I wasn't even always aroused, it was just part of my routine. And over time, it stopped feeling satisfying. It began to feel more like a drain than a release. That was the warning sign I didn't recognize, because pleasure without rhythm becomes emptiness. Excitement without recovery becomes burnout. It's not just about frequency, it's about alignment. Your body knows when it's had enough. It sends signals: fatigue, irritability, reduced interest, slower recovery, but we're taught to ignore them, to power through, to distract ourselves with more stimulation. The truth is, your system is trying to communicate. When you listen, when you slow down, sleep better, eat cleaner, breathe deeper, you begin to notice how much more stable everything becomes. There's actual science behind this. Studies show that moderate ejaculation, about 15 to 20 times per month, is linked with better prostate health, improved hormone regulation, and even a lower risk of certain cancers. It's not about denial, it's about balance. That number isn't a rule, it's a rhythm. It's a way of honoring how your body was built to function. When I started shifting away from compulsive habits and toward conscious rhythm, everything felt different. My energy levels rose. My mind felt sharper. My sense of sexual control and awareness came back. It was like my system finally had the breathing room it had been asking for all along. But there's another layer here, one that's easy to overlook. We tend to focus so much on the moment of release that we rarely consider what happens afterward. That time right after ejaculation carries some of the most important signals your body gives, and for years I ignored them. What if the way you feel after masturbating is actually the key to understanding whether your habits are healthy or harmful? What if that moment when everything is quiet and it's just you and your body is your body's honest answer? Let's talk about that next, because how you feel afterward might be the biggest clue your body's been giving you all along. And it's time we start listening. 5. Ignoring how you feel afterward. When the silence speaks the loudest. There's this moment that happens right after the screen goes dark. Your breathing slows. You sit in silence, maybe just for a few seconds, maybe longer. And in that space, right after you finish, that's where the truth lives. For years, I didn't pay attention to that moment. I brushed past it. Got dressed, grabbed my phone, moved on with my day. I thought it didn't matter. But looking back now, I realized it was trying to tell me something all along. Sometimes I'd feel relaxed, centered, almost like a weight had been lifted. But other times, I'd feel empty, foggy, maybe even a little ashamed, though I couldn't explain why. The same exact act, but two very different emotional outcomes. And that difference, I've learned, says everything. You see, your body doesn't just speak in physical terms, it speaks in feeling. It's not about whether ejaculation is good or bad, it's about how it leaves you. If you walk away from the experience feeling calm, grounded, even fulfilled, that's your body saying, "Thank you, that was in alignment." But if you feel drained, dull, anxious, or uneasy, that's not guilt. That's feedback. That's your nervous system telling you something's off. I spent years ignoring that signal, telling myself I was just tired, that the strange emptiness afterward was normal, that everyone probably felt that way. But the more I listened, the more I realized the post-masturbation moment is like a mirror. It reflects the quality of your relationship with your body, your emotions, and your habits. It tells you whether you're connecting or just checking out. When I started to get more intentional, I noticed something shift. If I masturbated when I actually felt desire, not just boredom or stress, I felt better afterward. If I stayed present, connected to my body instead of zoning out to a screen, I didn't feel depleted. And if I paid attention to my breath, my pace, the sensations. I walked away feeling recharged, not empty. That moment after, it's your teacher. And the more honest you are with it, the more you'll understand what's working and what's hurting you. It's not about shame, it's about awareness. You might discover that what used to leave you feeling high now leaves you feeling hollow. And that realization, if you're willing to face it, can be the turning point. The moment you stop repeating the same loop and start creating a new pattern. And I get it. Sometimes we don't want to feel anything. We just want to release the pressure and move on. But every time you skip that reflection, you skip an opportunity to hear what your body is really asking for. And most of the time, it's not more pleasure, it's more presence. So the next time you finish, don't rush away. Just sit for a moment, breathe, tune in. Ask yourself, do I feel better or worse? Lighter or heavier? That single question could open the door to a healthier, more connected version of yourself. But what if the answer isn't great? What if the pattern feels off, but you're not sure how to change it? That's when it's time to go deeper, into repair, into healing, because the body, as wise as it is, can't restore itself without help. And if you've been feeling symptoms, like weak erections, numbness, or just a sense that your system isn't firing like it used to, what you do next could mean everything. Let's talk about that. 6. Already experiencing symptoms? Why it's not too late to heal. There was a point when I thought something in me was broken. I wish I could say that realization hit all at once, but really it crept in slowly. I started noticing that my erections weren't as strong or didn't last as long. The sensitivity I once took for granted felt muted. I'd try harder, push more, thinking maybe I just needed to wake it back up. But nothing worked. And the worst part? I didn't talk to anyone about it. I didn't even ask questions. I just carried that quiet fear around, pretending everything was fine. If you're experiencing anything like that, if it feels like your body isn't responding the way it used to, I want to say this clearly. You are not alone. And more importantly, you're not beyond repair. So many men silently battle symptoms like weaker erections, less sensation, delayed arousal, or even a complete disconnect from pleasure. And the most damaging belief is that these changes are permanent. But the truth is, in most cases, your body is still capable. It's just asking, sometimes begging, for a different kind of care. When I finally decided to take this seriously, I didn't start with medications or expensive therapies. I started with the basics: sleep. I made it a priority instead of an afterthought. I gave my body time to recover, deep, undisturbed rest. I started eating foods that supported testosterone production and nerve health. Healthy fats, zinc, omega-3s, real nutrients that fuel performance from the inside out. And perhaps just as important, I began reducing my stress. I didn't realize how much tension I'd been carrying. That constant low-grade anxiety, it was sabotaging my nervous system and my circulation. I wasn't just tired, I was overloaded, and the sexual symptoms were a signal, not a curse. One of the most powerful changes I made was adding pelvic floor exercises. I'd heard of Kegels before, but always associated them with women. What I didn't know is that they're just as important for men, especially for strengthening the muscles that control erections, blood flow, and orgasm. And the best part? You don't need a gym or any equipment. You just need a few minutes of focused attention every day. That alone helped restore a level of strength and control I thought I'd lost. Now, for some men, the damage may go a little deeper, particularly if you've been dealing with this for years. If you suspect real vascular damage, if there's numbness, severe loss of function, or pain, don't wait. See a doctor. There are therapies today, non-invasive, effective options that can support healing and even regenerate damaged tissue. But none of that can happen if you stay silent. What I've learned is that the body is always trying to heal. It's not your enemy, it's your partner. It just needs the right conditions. And that healing isn't just physical, it's emotional too. Because when you start reclaiming your vitality, something comes back to life inside you. Confidence, clarity, that quiet sense of power that maybe you haven't felt in a while. So if you're already seeing symptoms, don't panic, don't numb out. Take it as the signal it is and start where you are. Small steps can lead to profound changes. But healing also means removing what's silently draining you, what's keeping you locked in a loop you can't escape. And sometimes it's not just what you do, but what you constantly feed your brain. And that brings us to something that may be even more damaging than we think: what we watch. Let's get into that next. 7. Overstimulating content, when what you watch starts controlling you. There was a time when I told myself it didn't matter, that what I watched during masturbation was just a harmless visual aid, nothing serious. I'd open a few tabs, scroll through videos, click around until something finally worked. I thought I was just being selective. What I didn't realize is that I was training my brain to respond only to the extreme, the exaggerated, the fake. And eventually, that quiet habit started bleeding into the rest of my life. At first, I didn't notice the shift. I just thought real intimacy felt a little off, a little slower, like it didn't hit the same way anymore. But as time went on, that gap grew wider. I found myself feeling disconnected during real moments with real people. I struggled to stay present, to feel aroused, to lock into the experience. It was like my brain had been rewired, chasing a level of stimulation that reality simply couldn't match. And in truth, it had. Most men don't realize this until it's already happening. When you watch porn consistently, especially when it becomes part of your regular masturbation routine, you're not just watching, you're programming. Your brain begins to crave novelty, intensity, variety. That dopamine spike from new videos becomes addictive, and what used to excite you no longer does. What used to feel enough now feels dull, so you go further, you search harder. You need more just to feel something. This constant cycle hijacks your brain's natural reward system. It floods your mind with high-speed artificial input and dulls your ability to feel pleasure in real time. You're not broken, you're overstimulated. And that's a tough truth to face, especially when porn feels like a private, victimless outlet. But what it's doing, quietly, is reshaping how your mind connects to arousal, intimacy, and even emotional safety. It wasn't until I started pulling back that I noticed just how much of myself I'd handed over. At first, everything felt flat. I wasn't used to feeling bored. I missed the fast hit, the thrill. But slowly, my brain started healing. My body began to respond to real imagination again. I could actually feel my own touch again, without needing 5 open tabs and 30 minutes of overstimulation. Fantasy came back. So did the ability to be turned on by a memory, a moment, a person, and with that came a deeper sense of satisfaction, not just physically, but emotionally too. Because porn doesn't just numb your sensitivity, it narrows your capacity for connection. Real sex becomes performance. Real people become less exciting than pixels. And eventually that disconnect starts to weigh on you whether you notice it or not. You start to ask yourself, why can't I feel what I used to? Why do I feel distant even when I'm close to someone? And that's the wake-up call. Not to judge yourself, not to feel guilty, but to recognize that what you feed your brain is just as important as what you feed your body. It shapes your instincts, your patterns, your intimacy. So if you're ready to reclaim control, start by getting honest with yourself about the content you consume. Ask if it's helping or hurting. Ask if it's bringing you closer to yourself or taking you further away. Because the truth is, your body wants to feel, your mind wants to connect, and you don't need a screen to get there. But even with all of this awareness, even if you stop watching and slow down, there's still one thing many men forget to do, something your body absolutely depends on. And if you miss it, none of this healing can truly stick. Let's talk about that next. 8. Not letting the body fully reconnect. Why recovery is the missing link. There's one piece that took me the longest to understand. I changed the frequency, I cut back on porn, I cleaned up my diet and started sleeping better. And yes, things improved, but something still felt unfinished. I couldn't explain it, but there was this gap, like my body was catching up, but my connection to it wasn't fully restored. That's when I realized I'd been so focused on stopping the bad habits, I forgot to nourish the part of me that was supposed to feel alive. Recovery isn't just about giving your body a break. It's about reconnecting to it, learning to be present again. And I'll admit, after years of overstimulation and disconnection, that wasn't easy. I had trained myself to be passive, to chase quick dopamine hits instead of tuning into subtle sensations. But true recovery meant doing the opposite, slowing down, paying attention, letting my nervous system relearn what pleasure actually feels like, when it's natural, gentle, and real. That shift didn't happen overnight. At first, it felt strange. I didn't even trust the signals my body was giving me anymore, but with time and patience, that connection returned. I began to notice my breath again. I could feel my heartbeat. Arousal came more naturally, and it wasn't forced. I didn't need to achieve anything. I just needed to show up, to be in my body, not escape from it. That's the part we so often forget. It's not enough to stop the damage. You have to rebuild the bridge back to yourself. Because masturbation, when it's done with awareness and care, isn't just about release, it's about relationship. With your own body, with your own energy, with the part of you that still wants to feel whole, powerful, and fully alive. So if you've made it this far, if any of this resonates with you, I want you to know something. It's not too late. No matter how long you've been stuck in a cycle, no matter how far disconnected you feel, your body is still listening, your nervous system is still healing, and your strength, the kind that matters most, is still right here. You're not broken. You're not too far gone. You're just waking up. And sometimes that's all it takes to change everything.